What's up guys, Jens Garcia here, and this is the Asus G550JK gaming laptop. It's one of the latest laptops from the company this year that is running the NVIDIA 800 series graphics. Last year we looked at two of their laptops, so let's go ahead and find out whether this gaming laptop is worth getting or not. As always, I love to start talking about the design, and you can tell straight away how beautiful and attractive this laptop is. And you know, Asus is really well known for bringing some high quality finish on laptops. The combination of black finish and red accents really makes you think straight away that this is a gaming laptop. Now these days, gaming laptops are starting to become slimmer due to smaller chips, and the G550JK is actually one of them, although it's not as slim as the Razer Blade, for example. It weighs in at 2.3 kilograms, which is not that bad actually, and it will fit most backpacks. Now, I don't know about you, but there's something really cool about this rogue logo at the front of the laptop, especially when it lights up. Now let me know in the comments below whether you like it as well. On the left hand side, you'll find the power and speaker jacks, Ethernet port, HDMI port, mini display port, and two USB 3.0 ports, and a combination of headphone and microphone jack. On the other side, you'll find the Kensington lock, Blu-ray drive, another USB 3.0 port, and an SD card slot. Now the speakers are located on the bottom, and above the display you'll find the front-facing camera. Hiding inside this beautiful machine is a 4th generation Core i7 processor clocked at 2.4 GHz, an NVIDIA GTX 850M, which is probably the key feature of this laptop. There's a 16 GB of RAM as well as 256 GB of SSD, which has been partitioned, and that way you'll have 95 GB of space for your system and 121 GB for your games and media files. The storage is definitely going to be an issue for sure, and I think they went a little too cheap. If not, they went too cheap with the storage, and they should have at least doubled the storage, as you don't want to spend more dollars after spending your money on this machine. So with the specs aside, how does the laptop perform in real life? Well, before I've started playing some games on this machine, I've done some other benchmarking first, and the programs I've used were Cinebench, NovaBench, 3D Mark, Firestrike, and Crystal Disk Mark, and then based on the OpenGL test, it scored 81 frames per second, 1091 for NovaBench, 2866 on Firestrike, 504 megabytes per second, and 403.7 megabytes per second on the sequential read and write speeds. For gaming, I've played 4 games, and during those testings I've ran different configurations, and the first one would be Far Cry on Ultra. It scored 26 frames per second, Battlefield 4 20 frames per second on Ultra, Crysis 3 scored 17, which actually went down to 11 in some parts of the gameplay, so it was a bit of a letdown. And of course on BioShock Infinite, it scored 28 frames per second on Ultra. Now the new graphics card is definitely a really good performer. The graphics looked great, and the games had some really good amount of vibrancy, and the detail it produces are really impressive. Crysis 3 on Ultra wasn't very playable. It stutters, and the frames was just really bad that it's just not playable at all. So if you're going to be playing that, then I'd recommend playing it on a high settings or perhaps medium. So but Ultra, not really. And comparing it to last year's edition, the GTX 850M is a much better performer overall. I didn't have any heating issues at all, even I was running some benchmarking programs, and there seem to have some multiple cooling fans inside running. From what I can hear, they're not too loud, but you can certainly hear in quiet environment. I was also feeling the vibration, but that didn't really affect the experience, and overall I think the fans were very effective. Another cool feature of the laptop are the red LED keys, and while it may not be a big of a deal, it adds that extra look on the laptop as well. I also find the keys large enough for me, and I didn't have any trouble using it when gaming. It has a slightly the same feeling as MacBook's chiclet keyboard, so you don't need a lot of pressure when pressing the keys. Now, my only criticism is that they could have done a better job with the keyboard by adding a program that will let you change the color of LEDs, and I'm sure that's not too much to ask. The touchpad on the other hand is pretty decent overall. It's large but lacking of supported gestures, although in regards to touch response, it's one of the most responsive touchpads I've ever used. I've always been a fan of the display on some of the laptops from Asus, and this machine is definitely one of them. It's very comparable to the G750, which is the one we reviewed last year, and in terms of colors and brightness, and that really helps when you're viewing your media files and playing some intense graphical games. And as expected, the matte coating also does an excellent job reducing the glare, which means there's no issue on using it in bright situation. It would have been better, however, if this gorgeous IPS panel had 2K resolution, but sadly that's not the case. You can also get this machine with 720p display, but I'd recommend getting the 1080p model. So I've already mentioned the gaming and benchmark performance. What about the battery life? Unfortunately, the battery life is disappointing, just like any other gaming laptops I've tried. I was able to get 53 minutes of game time and 5 hours of standard use with power saver set to balanced. I was really hoping that it would have a great battery life, but sadly it didn't. It's tough to say whether this really belongs to the ROG series after using the G750 late last year. I mean, think about it, the price is just way too much. It's 2,200 Australian dollars, and I think that's way too much for what it offers. I mean, those are Australian pricing, so but if you live in the US, this is going to be definitely cheaper for you guys. But I mean, considering you can also get the G750 with GTX 870 and bigger RAM support for a very close price, I just really can't tell you whether to buy this or not unless you want the metal body of this machine and of course the portability. The G550JK will also run most games for sure, but as a standalone gaming machine, not really. So there you have it folks, that's the Asus G550JK gaming laptop. Thank you all for watching, and if you found this video helpful, then why not support the channel by liking this video or perhaps subscribe to our channel for more reviews. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, and Instagram. All the links will be in the description box below. As always, I'm Jens Garcia from Tech for Geeks, and I'll see you all in the next one.